Now, did the BBC really have to sack Danny Baker? I have to declare an interest. I was the producer of a show with Danny more than 30 years ago, and I've always thought of him as a really good bloke, a brilliant broadcaster, and one of the funniest men I've ever met. And anyone who knows Danny knows there's not a racist bone in his body. So for him to be sacked for tweeting a comment about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex baby with a photo of a suited chimpanzee in a top hat seems a bit over the top, especially as he was contrite once his mistake was pointed out to him. No one believes it was intentional racism, so they say. And Danny claims he didn't even know Meghan is mixed race. Of course, he should have done. And of course, he shouldn't have done what he did. It was stupid and insensitive. But as a former BBC Director General, I ask, would I have agreed with the decision to sack him if it had happened when I was there? The pressure to remove him would have been intense. But I rather hope that I would have resisted.
Greg, I'm quite depressed about the fact that we're having this debate, if I'm honest, because you're somebody who I think generally sees yourself as an ally of progress. And as Director General of the BBC, you made a number of comments which were championed by people who wanted to see more diversity in broadcasting, which, by the way, is not a battle that's been won. It's an ongoing struggle. I think that I'm ambivalent about this because I don't really feel like I should debate you about whether this tweet was racist. Do you think it was racist, or do we need to argue about whether it was actually racist in the first place?
I think it could easily be interpreted as being racist, yes.
So it could be non-racist?
Oh, no, I think it will be seen as racist. Oh. What the discussion is about intent, I think.
So,
well, it could be non-racist.
In the context of...
If he didn't intend it to be racist, what he could have intended was that we as a society parade royal babies around like performing monkeys.
And that's what he said.
Which is what he said he meant.
He compared the birth and the foot around it to a circus.
If we begin to separate intent from racist actions and cannot see the distinction between racist behaviour and someone being a racist, then I shudder to think the kind of society we're going to end up in, because everybody will be declared racist all the time for microaggressions, which is where the far left are taking us. Yes, the action was racist, but no, he didn't mean to be racist, which is why he immediately apologised for it and deleted it, and then lost his job, and people still wanted to take him to the police and get prosecuted.
Can I just show you a clip? I think we should... of Danny being interviewed by Sky News, because I think he explains for himself what happened.
Did you think about it, though, when you were doing it? Did you not think about
not necessarily. Otherwise, I'd have to be some kind of slavering, secret racist, I promise you. I would... nobody invites this onto themselves. No, I had no idea until somebody... It had been up about 8 minutes. Somebody said, Dan, that's Megan What's-its. Like, down, down, down. On the radio, for years, I did monkeys dressed as famous people plus fairground music, because I'm still one of those people who thinks monkeys are quite funny. Not in that context.
Do you accept that some people will think, though, that it's at very best a bit naive?
Oh, I've told... Well, it is. It's not at very best. That's what it is.
I think that brings you into this discussion about intent. He did not intend to be racist. I mean, I oddly think if he'd been on the staff of the BBC, as opposed to being a freelance, if he'd been on the staff, they would have had to have a proper investigation. They'd have gone through the whole process, and I suspect he might not have gone. But because someone had a knee-jerk reaction, because they understood the sort of flack they were going to get, I think they got rid of him. And I have to separate the fact that I know him and have known him quite well and I know what he's like.
I've never met him before in my life and never heard of him before this.
Okay,
You've never heard of him?
No.
Can I ask you a question, Afua? Do you think... I think it was unintended racism. Do you think that it is right that he loses his job and possibly his career over that?
I think I'm going on strike in this debate, if I'm honest, because you know what it is? I'm the only black person in this space. I'm the only black woman in this space, and it's not the first time that I am being called upon to... I'm feeling supportive vibes from Nick.
Support you on this.
But it is so exhausting to have to sit here and communicate our daily lived experience. These are the kind of things that happen every day in your life. As a black person in this country, yesterday I was talking to a mixed-race girl who tried to kill herself when she finished school because of daily things that made her feel dehumanised. It's regular and it's everywhere. And then what you see is that people like you, Greg, line up to defend your friends and say, I know him, he's a nice guy, it's fine, it's harmless, he didn't mean it. You have no idea how it feels to have someone make a monkey noise at you when you're doing your job. And, you know, he's a football supporter. He should know. This is something that the best football players in the country say they can't wait to see the back of their game because of the emotional trauma of having fans. No, not one footballer, Greg. Dozens of footballers. And not just at the Premier League, regular local clubs. Kids playing teams on the weekend saying that having monkey noises is a regular part, having banana skin. Sorry, I'm just done. I'm not, and thank you for being supportive. I'm not going to communicate to you what is wrong with it. You should know. You should know better.
You and I have fought a lot over this, and I can see how upset you are, and I'm very sorry that you're upset about this. But do you think that if someone... Let me ask you a question. In this job, we all live, you know, on radio and on television. We're all capable, you know, we live in fear of cocking it up, of saying something that, well, I do. I live in fear of saying the wrong thing, and it offends somebody that I didn't mean to offend. I asked you before, do you think it's right that he loses his career over this? I
don't think he will lose his career, Carol. Let's give Afua a second, and I'll take that on. Of course, then Afua, you can get... But I don't think he will lose his career because he's a supremely talented man. He was stupid, he was crass, it's unpardonable. It was undoubtedly a racist... What I find extraordinary is this a man who has done some great product, and I admire him, and he's beaten me to awards on many occasions, and well done to him. He works for a station that's all about news and sport. He doesn't know who Meghan Markle is. He doesn't know that she's mixed race. He didn't know which princess or duchess had the baby. Ridiculous. And he doesn't know about the problem of racism in sport and football.
He did it on purpose?
No, I think he was
the point.
What do you think it was then? That's the point. It was a mistake.
We've got to stop being cowardly about this debate. I really respect your feelings and what you said, but there is a difference between principle and how people feel. People feel very aggrieved by this and they have the right to. That doesn't make him a racist. It makes him stupid. Now, if, at the end of the day, if we're going to encourage that kind of world where feelings equal fact, there was a professor in Harvard, the first African-American dean of the Faculty of Law, just this week was sacked by Harvard because feelings equal fact for people today. And I feel as strongly about this as you do because I've fallen victim to this kind of thinking. He was sacked. Why? Because he agreed as a law professor to go on to Harvey Weinstein's legal defence team. And they sacked him because the students said they now feel unsafe. What they didn't consider is he was the first African-American law faculty dean. And so everyone suffers from this thinking if feelings equal fact.
I thought long and hard before I did this, and actually I went on your show, you remember?
You did, yeah, you did.
And I hadn't made up my mind at that stage. I wasn't sure. Then because I'd just come back from the States, then I looked at it more and more, and I find it very difficult, and I understand exactly your position. I also understand your position in that every time we have something about race, why does it have to come to you? You know,
but is being stupid a crime? Is being, you know, he was in, the tweet was investigated by the police. What is it?
More so, can you be something, a sexist, a racist, a homophobe, if you weren't intending the meaning of those words when you said something that has the consequence of being racist, sexist, or homophobic? No, because intent matters.
I think it does matter,
now,
absolutely.
You know, because also, Afua, again, I understand the history of this slur, but we've got to, look, I suffer from racism as well. We've got to distinguish between intended racism and accidental racism. Otherwise, we don't give people the chance to redeem themselves. If everything is racist, whether you intended it or not, then there's no forgiveness. There's no redemption and there's no apology.
The concept of forgiveness.
There's no apology. Why apologise if you're guilty anyway? Then that's it. You can't change it. You know, and you know, it's...
Do you not accept that? I mean, you're sitting back and I get you're upset.
I'm ready to speak. I haven't had a chance to come in. In response to your question, Carol, you know, my issue is that everybody makes the person who does the racist thing the victim. So you're asking, is it right that he was sacked? Greg saying he's a nice guy, he's going to lose his job. You know, how is he the victim in this scenario? This is a pregnant woman who had to arrange new levels of protection because of the amount of racist abuse she was receiving, which escalated when she announced she was pregnant. She's always had racist abuse, but when she announced her pregnancy, it multiplied because there is so much toxic racism in our society.
That's not Danny Baker's fault.
That's not Danny Baker's fault, but what is Danny Baker's fault is that he did something which was so offensive that when I first saw it, I actually thought it was a prank. I just thought nobody who the BBC gives a platform could be stupid enough to say this and not intend it to be racist, because it is one of, and we could talk about unintended racism or microaggressions. This is none of those. This is the most blatant, clear-cut example of racism. It's that generations of people have recognised this as an overtly racist trope. Within people's lifetimes, black people were still being compared to monkeys and dehumanised regularly.
So the sacking is right, you
So
think?
I'm not interested in him. I'm not interested in him or what happens to him. By the way, he's already done a show which was more successful than his previous shows since he's been sacked. So if you're worried about his career, then I suspect
no one's worried about
there's no
his
reason
career
to.
per se.
I'm not interested
What
in
we're
him. I'm
talking-
worried about the millions of black people who regularly live with this kind of abuse and then have to be in spaces like this where everybody denies it's a problem. That is something that I could not feel more strongly about, and I'm living it right now in this conversation. It's not good enough.